Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is PainintheAxe, and today we're going to be going over my Deadlands PvP MagDK build. It's been one of my favorite builds I've ever done in ESO. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy it as well, but let's just get right into the details. Alright, our first set that we're going to be backbarring is a set called Daedric Trickery. So what this set does is gives us 5 major buffs, being Major Expedition, Major Mending, Major Heroism, Major Vitality, and Major Protection. So those 5 buffs, for the most part, are not available on MagDK, so having access to those will increase our survivability tremendously. Especially Major Expedition, because being able to move fast in combat is going to be one of the most vital things you have. Alright, so for our front bar set, it's going to be an iconic MagDK set. You guys probably heard of it. It's a great set called Burning Spellweave. So Burning Spellweave works perfectly on a MagDK because it's activated from the Burning status effect, and it's going to give you 478 spell damage for 8 seconds. And it can occur once every 12 seconds. So what that means is it's going to have a 4-second downtime, which is pretty damn low. Pretty low. So that's going to be very reliable. Something you can use in a fight. Also, why I prefer this set over Soaks of the Sun, because I always get asked this on streams. Like, why don't you just do Soaks of the Sun? Because it's permanent uptime. The thing that I like about Burning Spellweave more is all that spell damage is going to apply to your healing potential, whereas Soaks of the Sun won't. You'll get, like, I believe Soaks of the Sun is 400 spell damage consistently, no matter what, like on all flame attacks. So this is going to apply to everything. This is going to apply to your healing, it's going to apply to your flame damage, it's going to apply to magic damage. It's just all out better, in my opinion. I mean, it does have that downtime, but I believe it's worth it to run it just for that reason. Alright guys, for this build we are running a monster set. Last build we put out, we could not do that because we were running the Gaze as Sithis. But in this one, we are not running that, so we can afford to run a monster set. And I recently picked up the Magma Incarnate Set. And I gotta say, this thing is pretty nuts. Like, honestly, like the fact that it just gives you Magicka and Stamina Recovery both on the one piece is absolutely insane. It's like it's already better than just running a one-piece Blood Spawn, like down the line. So that's really good for your sustain. But on top of that, whenever you heal a group member or yourself, it's going to put out this little ball that bounces around to the lowest health target. And what it's going to do is going to give them Minor Courage and Minor Resolve, which means 215 spell damage and 2,974 armor for 10 seconds. And then it will start bouncing from teammate to teammate if you're in a group, giving them all that same buff. So I like to play a lot of Battlegrounds and whatnot. Like, I mainly PvP in Battlegrounds. Like, even in Cyrodiil when I'm teaming up with friends, like, your teammates are going to love you for running this set. Like, you're just giving everybody free damage and free resistance. And on top of it, it will apply to you as well. So it's a great support set that also benefits you, like, as an individual as well. It just happens to benefit your teammates. So I really love this set. I love the utility it brings to group fighting. Like, I love it even for solo PvP because it'll still proc on yourself. So it's just an amazing set, and it's going to pair with the next item in this build, which is going to be our Mythic item. But let's get on over to that right now. All right, so we got 2 items left. One of them is going to be the new Mythic, the Markin Ring of Majesty. What this does, it gives 100 weapon and spell damage and 1157 armor for every set you're wearing of at least 3 pieces or more. So with this build, we have 2 5-piece sets on, being the Trickery and the Burning Spellweave, which gives us 200 weapon to spell damage and 2300 armor in total from. What's awesome about this is that it doesn't have any drawbacks like other Mythics, and it only gives positives. So in this 200 weapon damage and spell damage with the 2300 armor is going to be on you at full time. And it pairs really well with the last monster set we were talking about, the Magma Incarnate. So it's just a very good pairing with that. And since we don't have any more slots left to put anything really interesting on, we're just going to slap a trainee on the heavy legs. Because what do you do when you only have 1 piece left? You put on trainee. You get some free health, 1400 health right there. Why not, right? Alright guys, we're going to go over our skills. This is my back bar setup with the Daedric Trickery bar on Resto staff. I like to run Rapid Regen for the large healing over time. It's very useful when you're moving around. Engulfing Flames is going to debuff their flame damage taken, and also put a large dot on them as well. Degeneration is going to give you major sorcery as well as put a dot on them. Coagulating Blood, your burst heal, you're going to want to use this when you're kind of lower HP because it is rather expensive to spam, so only use that when you're in dire need. Volatile Armor to give you your resistance up, and as well put a magic dot on them for 10 seconds. Very useful to do while you're like buffing up. Like, try to buff up in their face so you can still apply that damage to them. And for my ultimate, I like to use Ferocious Leap. I do kind of use this defensively. I'm going to get into why later, because I like to use Shifting Standard as my main ult. But we'll use this as a flex between defensive and offensive ults. So this got me out of a lot of bad situations because that shield to put you on you for 31k, it's about half in PvP, so about 15k. That could save you from a lot of bad scenarios. It will keep you from getting bursted down. So if you're getting low, sometimes I'll just defensively leap them and kind of turn the tide and put it back on the offensive right after that. But that's why I backbar it, because I don't really like to use leap offensively if I can help it. But I'll explain why here in a second. Alright guys, so we're going to be going over our skill set for the front bar. It's going to be our Burning Spellweave bar. So the first skill I like to put on there is Flames of Oblivion. This actually got buffed this patch. So it used to shoot only 2 fireballs at enemies every 5 seconds. Now it shoots 3. So you can hit even more targets with it and do a lot more damage. On top of that, you get Major Prophecy and Major Savagery, which increases your critical rating by 2,629. So it's going to ensure you crit a bit more if you put it on your front bar, since that's where you're going to be doing the most damage from. Our next skill is going to be Elemental Drain. So this puts Major Breach on the target, which reduces their resistance by 5,948. Makes it easier to soften up targets, makes your dots go through better, makes everything you do damage-wise better. And on top of that, it also does minor magic steal, so you get some sustain back, 168 magic every 1 second. So as long as you have dots ticking on them, you're going to get that recovery every second. So you have to make sure you keep your dots up with this on them. Next skill is going to be Molten Whip. This is going to be our burst skill. I really enjoy the Molten Whip playstyle. It's just superior to Flame Lash in every single way, in my personal opinion. So basically what you do with Molten Whip is that you gain something they called a 3-stack whip, like I like to call. So how you gain that 3-stack whip is using 3 Ardent Flame abilities in succession with each other. So if you just use Flames of Oblivion 3 times, you would gain that 3-stack whip. And then from there, your whip is going to do extra damage to them. You'll do 33% more damage and increase your spell damage by 75 for 10 seconds. So up to 3 times. I'm not good at math. I'm not going to do 75 times 3. Okay, I'm going to try in my head. 225. That is 225 spell damage if you have a 3-stack whip. Hopefully I'm right. Otherwise, I'm going to get roasted in the comments from you guys. So go ahead and roast me if I'm wrong. But like I said, this is going to be your burst damage skill. It's very useful. You can dish out a lot of damage to people. If you time it right, like with a Fossilize into the whip, you're going to do great. Speaking of Fossilize, I run Shattering Rocks instead, because when you stun them, you're going to get health back. It's very useful for when you're getting outnumbered. You can just stun a bunch of targets to get a lot of healing every time they break free. And I find it very useful. It's a very good skill to run. And of course, we're running Burning Embers on the Mag DK. Burning Embers is going to put a single target dot on them, and it's going to heal you for 76% of the damage done. Oh, I had to read that there for a second. 76% of the damage done. So it's a good thing to use as a healing skill while you're staying aggressive. And it's also going to proc that burning status effect. So again, the burning status effect is going to proc your burning Spellweave, which is going to make your damage go up. So you definitely want to run this. There's no reason not to run this skill in a Mag DK. It's just super useful, and it's fairly cheap to use too. Only 2,500 magicka. For ultimate, we like to run Shifting Standard. So I really like Shifting Standard. It's been super useful in every form of PvP I do. It pretty much, it has a nice dot to it when on the ground, but the main thing I use it for is the Major Defile. So if I get that on a healer, there's a lot of people running healers these days. I'll throw this on them, and I'll watch their heals just sink to nothing, or they'll at least be reduced. And what I like about the shifting is that you can replace it wherever you go up to 29 seconds. And what's also added benefit to this, it's going to proc your Molten Whip. So this counts as an Ardent Flame ability. So every time you replace it, it actually doesn't cost any ultimate or resources. It's 100% free. So you can use this to proc your Molten Whip for free. So it's like, why wouldn't you use it? It's great. It defiles them. It does some damage on the ground. It's just really amazing to use. I've used it in so many scenarios, and it's just amazing. You should definitely give Shifting Standard a try if you've not already. All right, next, guys, we're just going to take a look at the stat sheet. So I run this build as a Breton. What Breton does, it gives the account a lot of sustain. So we're going to be sitting at 1,700 back recovery, and with that, I never really feel starved for magicka. And if I am running low on magicka, we have that resto staff, just the heavy attack, and get some magicka back. So playing a Breton, keep your sustain up, keep your skills rolling, keeps you alive. Attribute-wise, I put 44 in the magic, 20 in the health. Why I've dumped so much in the health is because I want to just keep 30k HP. Being anything less than 30k is kind of rough in PvP now these days, so I definitely recommend putting whatever amount you need into health to get at least 30k. So definitely do that. Our base spell damage here is 3,500. So that's really good for base spell damage. So when I'm fully buffed, I can get this to about 6k spell damage, which is a lot for a mag DK. It puts out a lot of damage. I've been whipping people for like 14k of 6k spell damage. It's just good damage. You guys are going to like it. When we're buffed, our resistance is going to look like 30k spell, 25k physical. There's a lot less resistance as the last build, but you kind of make up for it for the extra healing power and the movement you get from Daedric Trickery, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just play a little bit smart. Don't eat so many attacks. Our front bar, we do get 30% spell crit, which is very nice. 7,700 pen, but of course add about 6,000 when you put Ellie Drain onto the target, so you're getting, what's that, about 13k pen. So it's pretty decent. It's a pretty good tank buster. Crit resistance at 2,600, so it's good enough to keep you from getting crit all the time, but if you wanted to change some of the armor traits out for more Impen, you can. That's completely up to you. I just prefer to have reinforced in my main pieces to get some more resistance. Alright guys, last thing I'm going to talk about is my CP slottables. I'm only going to go over the blue and the red tree because green doesn't really have much application to combat. So the first one I put into blue is Deadly Aim, which is 10% extra damage done with single target attacks. Thaumaturge for 10% extra dot effect. Master at Arms is 10% extra damage with direct attacks. And Resilience is going to give us a bit more critical resistance. So I put Resilience on because we have a few pieces of armor with the Reinforced trait. So the way we get some of our crit resist back is through our CP right here in Resilience. The red tree, I do Refreshing Stride. Gives us 500 health and magicka recovery while we're sprinting. Very useful when we're chasing down a target with sprint. Gives you a lot of sustain back while you're going after them. Survival Instincts is 25 cost reduction with your core combat skills, so like things like roll dodge and whatnot, can cost 25% less. And since our stand pool is kind of limited, we're going to want to have this. Make sure we keep our stand pool high. Next is Slippery. It's going to automatically break us free for no cost every 21 seconds. Definitely worth having. Again, it holds your stand pool high, and it's very useful. There's a lot of situations where like maybe you can't break free. This will break you free for free, quite literally. And our last one, Sustained by Suffering. So this is a Sustain passive. Gives us 150 health, magic, and stamina recovery. Helps us all around. Keeps us Sustain high. Pairs well with Breton. Definitely worth slotting. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this build video. I've had a lot of fun streaming this build, and I'm happy to finally put it out here publicly for you all to enjoy. If you have any questions about the build, please feel free to drop a comment down below. I'll gladly get back to you. You can also drop by my Twitch channel. I'm live generally 7 days a week around 1 p.m. PST. The link is going to be down below in the description. Again, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again next time.